Hey, big fucking dreamers. So pumped to be here with you today. This is a bit of a bonus recording, and I did this originally as a LinkedIn Live with one of my beautiful clients, Cory Welsh, who has just completed level 2 of the life and work transformation. And we talk in this episode a bit about her journey toward more emotional regulation, how she was able to really remain calm and centered during a really crazy time in her life where she was experiencing redundancies, she was getting married, she moved in with her partner, and how she was able to just navigate that with a lot of calm and ease due to what we went through in level 2. So, this is going to be for you if you are considering joining one of my programs, if you're in level 1 and maybe you were thinking about joining level 2, or you even just want to know, like, what are the actual client transformations that you will experience or that you will see from doing it. So Cory is an absolute gem. She is currently in LinkedIn, and you'll hear, or she works at LinkedIn, and you'll hear all about her journey. So if you are curious about level 2 or even level 1, definitely reach out to me, send me a DM, and thank you for being a big fucking dreamer. Hey, Core.
Hey,
Back.
thank you for having me
Here. Yeah, I love being here with you. Today we're talking about you've just finished level 2 of the life and work transformation. So you've gone through level 1, you decided to do level 2, which was so exciting, and wanted to just talk about the differences that you saw. But also, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself for people that don't know you already.
Well, honored to be here as always, Hannah. For those considering the program or in the program who I haven't met yet, I live in Los Angeles. I'm a former expat who met Hannah living in Sydney, Australia. I work at LinkedIn. I've been employed here for 11 years in 3 different cities around the world. I work in enablement. So what that means is learning and development designed for sales. I help everyone from new hires to managers and leaders at LinkedIn develop their skills and grow their effectiveness at work. On the side, I also love helping people amplify their brand on LinkedIn, and I love helping people figure out what they want to do with their career. So whenever I get to chat with you, Hannah, it's a dream come true. And I completed the life and work transformation program last year in 2024. And so it was a natural step for me to say yes to life and work empowered in 2025, and it was a great choice.
Perfect. You completed level 1. I'd love to understand what was the real reason that you wanted to join level 2, or what was the main drivers for that for continuing on?
So the first driver was very honestly love of the community that we had built. And even more than that, what I had realized was something I absolutely like thrived on. Having a community of practice in which I got to learn new frameworks and actually be held accountable to implementing them in community. I felt like I wasn't done with what I could gain from that group. So at the end of level 1, I was sad that it was over. But the second reason that I leaned in and ultimately decided to go for it when I was on the fence about level 2 was because I was in a kind of pivotal moment of transformation. So I had recently moved in with my partner for the first time. I was also preparing to take our relationship to the next level as we had gotten engaged. So we were preparing to step into marriage. And I also was approaching a season in my career where I was ready to make a change. So I realized that I was not feeling fluent yet in all these frameworks and self awarenesses I had gained. And I knew that I wanted to continue the momentum and implement or integrate those. So I realized that 2025 was the perfect year to do it. And when you designed the second part of the program, I had already made this intention. So it felt meant to be. I said that I was going to invest in refining and kind of crystallizing my career and purpose in 2025. So when this opportunity came, it was very much like a natural fit. I felt like it was a sign from the universe that I had to keep going.
Just a sign from the universe that we're soul sisters. Okay, cool. So you did level 1, you're in level 2, and I mean, when I saw you leave level 1, you were like, okay, I'm so much more aware, but I don't know that I've gotten this giant transformation that some of the other people had had. And like sometimes that happens where a lot of people transform super quickly and their whole life changes in level 1. But then I really saw huge shifts in you in level 2. A lot around empowerment, a lot around language and emotional regulation. I would say those 3 concepts I saw you really catapult. Could you talk a little bit about those and how they've shown up both at work and at home and the changes that you've seen in yourself?
Mm, definitely, yes. So, when looking at what transformations I've tangibly made since completing level 2, I do first think of level 1, at which point I believe ending 2024, I didn't really feel as though I had made any dramatic shifts in my life. I hadn't quit my job. I hadn't decided to make a career pivot or had any groundbreaking aha moments, but I had started to really unpack what I think were little niggles that I had known for years were getting to me. For example, feeling like there was maybe a lack of alignment in my current job, or I had begun really understanding more deeply, okay, which parts of me are pulling at and impacting my priorities and my dreams and my values. Because of that lack of, clear demonstrated change, I knew that I was still, though, on a precipice, kind of like a little jumping off point where I had a lot of momentum and a lot of like energy built up. So now, looking back at level 2, you all may notice I still work at the same employer. I'm still here living with my same fiance. We're about to get married next month. But a lot of the changes that I've realized I'm feeling internally is my understanding now of both my various kind of emotional parts, as we call them, and where those originated, where or how they've served me, or why they're still trying to be present in my career when I'm a 35-year-old woman. That fluency has deepened so much. I feel so much more kind of in tune with who I am and why. Secondly, I feel a lot more self-aware of both my triggers when my values are out of alignment with what's happening in life or what's happening with my partner or my parents or my boss at work. That awareness paired with part 3, which is really the language and these tools, there's nothing else to call them because they're frameworks that you can actually implement when having a conversation or taking action in my career has really just accelerated my confidence in navigating those tough conversations or responding when I've faced an interesting situation that was unexpected. Recent example is that we had a reorg at my company this year. There were quite a few people who were impacted by redundancies, and that led to a lot of shifts overnight. I had a new job, new scope of work, new manager, but I had this ability to tackle it that I wouldn't have had 12 months ago. And that's really changed the way that I like enter into those conversations, the way that I respond rather than react. And as we are entering into this season also of really hectic wedding planning, those exact same tools paired with that awareness have really helped in my relationship conversations. So even if maybe the whole world externally hasn't seen them, the changes that I've experienced are very palpable. And I think the people very close to me would say they observe those as well.
I love this concept of responding rather than reacting and having the space and the awareness to understand what's going on inside of you. I mean, you had so many examples of this. Could you give a few examples of when tangibly you were able to act differently in a situation than you would have either at work or at home?
Sure, I'll give an example probably of each because that has been like the most prevalent situation that I have felt the impacts of the life and work empowered. So the first example I already kind of teed up is when I had a big change happen at work. And I'm in a season where I've had multiple changes in the past 12 months. I'd actually had 3 different managers. So you would think that I'd be an expert at navigating this, but as humans, right, we don't love change or feeling out of control. So, first, when I think historically, I'm someone who wears my heart on my sleeve, so I can have very high emotions in certain situations. I recently had a conversation with one of my senior leaders, actually, after a conversation and kind of an interaction where I felt very diminished. My confidence was down, like after an activity at work where I had to deliver something to a senior executive. And instead of reacting or getting too down on myself or kind of a multitude of different things that have happened in the past, which, are not my proudest moments, I felt very emotionally confident in kind of how to handle those responses. First, how to realize what was bothering me. Why did I feel that way? Two, then I could really identify which parts of those things are objectively factual and which parts of these are really just stories that I'm telling myself. Hannah taught me something to label those as really like the clean pain that we're observing when we have an emotion and the dirty pain that we're extrapolating by assigning meaning to things that isn't necessarily right. This has changed again the way that I go on through the rest of my workday. Um, Ask for feedback or ask for follow up clarity from that senior leader. And then I'm able to go on through the week with confidence and grace rather than spiraling and ruminating on what I did wrong. In a similar vein, the way that I've applied kind of similarly those frameworks has been when I'm navigating tense moments in, let's say, wedding planning, right? With my mom, who's one of my dearest friends I'm very close with. We've had some of the most tense conversations that we've ever needed to have in light of such a large, like, how pressure event with so many family coming. And while I would tell you that I felt really close with my mom before this, I also have felt now that I'm so much more keenly aware of what are those like inner stories, like I mentioned, or beliefs that are getting triggered. Like, what are the parts of me as a young Cory that are surfacing when we have that tension? And then I'm able to more clearly and confidently share with her what it is that bothered me and what I would love or value instead. And I can make a request of her, which we all know is like the hardest scenario in which to set boundaries with our parents. So those two examples, not only do I feel more confident, but how I've like deepened and strengthened relationships that otherwise, like in the past, have had tension or been left tense. Now I have these tools that I'm trying to integrate, and I'm doing so way more consistently, way more organically, because I have this amazing community where I can come and practice delivering them or where I can share like what I'm proud of having delivered. And the group really like lifts me up and gives me the courage to try those things.
A lot of what you're talking about as well and is like so much level 2 built on level 1. So you almost need an understanding of your parts. You almost need an understanding of your values. Can you just talk a little bit about really nonviolent communication, which is one of my favorite communication frameworks because I saw you just take this to really deepen it and become quite fluent in that, and how that has changed in level 1 from level 2 of actually deepening those, and then how it has allowed you to show up differently?
Great question. When I think of a specific tool like nonviolent communication, I've reflected on why it feels easier or at least more embedded in my kind of natural way of communicating than it did when I learned it over 12 months ago. Right. So I think the first thing that I reflected is that one, it takes practice to obviously like observe and learn something, try it on for size, but then really integrate it into your way of being in the world. So the second thing that I think helped make that possible was my more deep understanding of not only just my values, because it starts with, right, in your program, Hannah, your values and your self energy. Where do you feel like the most creative, confident, calm, connected? Then when I went to level 2, we came back and revisited my values, right? I went way deeper on what are my values actually by thinking about what's my ideal life. Where am I not feeling integrity in my life, but also in my career? Then, when I unpacked all of those things and used some of the tools you provided us, like the self assessment on our values, I was able to see which values am I really walking the walk on versus which are just aspirational. And I was able to, I think, just like better wrap my head around, wrap my soul around what I want my life to be, especially as I enter into this new phase, right, of marriage and my career. So then that kind of took me to the ability to again like practice these things in a real high pressure environment, if you will. So I happen to be in a season, right, of a lot of change all at once. This has led to some really amplified, not only tense conversations, but like difficult dynamics with family, from everything to purpose and existential, like wondering of what I should be doing with my life. And so because I think I've gotten a chance to like combine self-awareness with practice in such a high stakes moment of my development, I feel like it's like given me this greater understanding. And you know what that leads to is greater conviction. So when I'm having the conversation with my mom, I'm not practicing an awkward framework. I'm actually telling her from a very authentic place that, hey, mom, I just actually realized for the first time in my adult life that I really value when you and I are super transparent. Therefore, like, the impact of that when we weren't honest was that I felt really lonely and really betrayed. Therefore, what I'd love to ask is, could we try being more honest with each other a little more upfront in the process? Now, this is a hypothetical example, kind of taken from many a recent example, but I wanna try and illustrate why I think level 2 has been so powerful is because of when in my life I chose to do it and how the timing of maybe every other event in my life, like my career change and my wedding, have really granted me this gift, this opportunity to take my emotional regulation and, like, communication to the next level.
We've had a lot of fertile coaching ground, as I like to say, and I think that
What
sometimes when there's, like, a lot of transition going on in people's life and they're like, "Oh, I'm switching jobs or I'm building a house or I'm getting married or I'm getting divorced, like, this isn't the time to do coaching." What advice would you give people that are going through a lot of major transition and then thinking about coaching but think it might be too much to do a program like this?
I definitely resonate with the metaphor that you joked that, this was fertile coaching ground for me. So if someone is on the fence, like considering whether or not they have bandwidth for this type of investment, I would say that number one, keep in mind, I spend about 2 hours a week investing in myself in this program because we only meet for 1 hour every week. And then at max, I spend another hour reflecting, writing, doing a bit of my homework or reflections, and communicating and connecting with the other people in the cohort. Those 2 hours to me are time I'm going to spend anyway, like either developing my skills, learning in community, or reflecting as I am someone who loves to write and journal. But the ROI of that time I've invested, I cannot say enough, like how much it has paid off because, like you said, during those times of maybe challenge or potential like tension, conflict, I constantly felt like I had not only these frameworks to help me, but I had a community where I could kind of rely on a sense of safety and connection, support. This group was a huge source of that when it was my turn to share that week or when, Hannah, you provide your one-on-one coaching. And so I would say to anyone who's maybe considering it because you're curious, that actually might be a sign this is an even better time than ever to invest. Finally, the benefit is you then have a container every single week to go to away from whatever is causing you a lot of, ample goodness and stress in life. For me, that's been not just wedding planning, but it's meant I have a container for connection and community and learning outside of my work from home environment, which is very solitary all day. And that has really led me to, I think, just expand my worldview of like what's possible by hearing from the other women in the group, the other people in the group who live in a different market or live back in Sydney. And I never knew what those incremental benefits would be until I was in it, but it is definitely part of what kept me on for level 2 and will make me crave your level 3 whenever it's, coming, Hannah.
It's coming. Well, you also mentioned that there is a bit of difference between the energy in level 1 versus level 2, like the what people are bringing to the cohort. So a few people have said that, like, it is a very different experience, the level 1 and level 2. Could you talk about that a bit?
Sure. So I had to really think about what it was. What was the difference in the magic between the 2 cohorts? Because I had a good experience in my first cohort, making, like, very quick connections, feeling such a special and, like, safe place to share. What I realized is everyone was coming in with a very similar curiosity because they were there, they had signed up, but we also all had really different baselines of self-awareness and understanding, career circumstances, and honestly, like, life circumstances. So what that did was it made an amazing breeding ground for vulnerability and sharing, and I also think it led a lot of people to have, like, great aha moments, which we all celebrated and loved. Now the difference is when we went to level 2, naturally, every single person in level 2 has been a part of level 1, so they already have the same foundation of awareness and understanding of these frameworks, also a little bit understanding their own self and values. So what we were able to do is like very quickly accelerate into practicing. So during the cohort, there's more of that sharing and implementing frameworks live, giving each other feedback and kind of holding each other to higher standards. 3, feeling an immediate trust and sense of the safety to offer an observation. Or what I love about like the culture of these communities is I'm not there to give additional advice or fix anyone's circumstance, but I might say like, "Hey, Lindsay, I actually just thought of something that you helped me realize. Would you mind if I share back a reflection?" And when we leave with that permission, people love it. The incremental insights were just like flowing. And I think that group is holding each other to a slightly higher standard of accountability. We really did see more people make drastic changes and implement the tools at a more consistent and confident way, which was really inspiring. Every single week, I was inspired by someone's example of how they stood up to their child's school or how they stood up to their own parent, which I think helped accelerate some of my own learning and reflection too.
Yeah, there were just a ton of, like, badass moments throughout the cohort where people were like, "I'm not taking shit anymore." And it's just like, I was like, "Ooh, okay, like, yeah, here we go." People leaving careers, people very confidently saying something to their CEO that they've never said in their entire career, or approaching someone, or really fighting for why they need more staff, or putting a very firm boundary in with their mother. Like, it was quite a everyone made really drastic leaps and changes, but then it was all really driven from like in from internally, from an internal source of strength that I think in level 1 people were still trying to navigate and develop, because we were still learning about parts and values, and there were so many new concepts to a lot of people, whereas level 2, they're standing, so then you can just leap off quicker.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also just wondering, is there one tool in your life that you feel like level 2 has cemented or you use? Like, we've spoken a little bit about nonviolent communication or clean pain or dirty pain, but is there just one thing that you feel like has really changed the way that you operate, that you're using more consistently?
Whenever Hannah and I, whenever we chat, there's an aha moment or a realization. But when I look back now, after this whole conversation, I think the one that has like resonated the most deeply is identifying my emotional reactions and the clean or first level pain and distinguishing between that and the second level muddled and made up pain. For those of you who have never heard this framework, it is a way to check our own reactions. So if you think about emotions and thoughts, both of which are not necessarily objective facts or truths, but two that are always universal. We all have them. Once I realized the power of those, they trickled down and cascaded into every other tool and framework that Hannah had already taught me. So, for example, my ability to use nonviolent communication when I'm asking my mom for something that I want her to do, or when I'm trying to articulate what it is that was bothering me about my partner's behavior and which part inside of me was triggered by a certain action. All of those things are more clear and fluent because I can identify like what is clean and what is dirty in the pain or hurt or anger I'm feeling. Something really profound I read today is that stress is not a feeling. Stress is actually a symptom of another feeling. So maybe that's hurt. Maybe that's sadness. Maybe that's undercapacity or, less than capacity. Like fluency is going to really like change the way that I respond at work to my leaders. It's going to change the way that I go forward with my partner as we embark on the marriage journey, which I know Hannah, you can relate to how powerful that one is. So happy to share though any other things that I learned with anyone listening who's considering doing level 2 of the program.
Well, yeah, I really saw that click for you, and then you referenced that in a lot of your shares and in a lot of your homework of, "Okay, I'm actually going into a lot of dirty pain around this, and then this is how I'm going to get out of it more quickly because I'm able to recognize that it was dirty pain." So it did seem like when I introduced that construct, a lot of things unlocked about your behavior with others, but then that enabled you to change more easily. And I think that's a big difference in coaching and therapy, is that we're not just here for awareness. We're actually in my coaching programs, like, I'm giving you tools to change, to do something right away and to execute. And then I saw you execute these things pretty immediately, like in multiple situations. You were like, okay, no, I'm gonna have this conversation. I'm gonna have this conversation. I understand where all this part's coming from, and I understand the history and the context, but then I can go implement it a step further. So I don't have to sit in it any longer than I need to.
Yes, which has, by the way, paved the way for so much clarity. It allows you to shed things that you're ruminating on. It empowers you to move forward in relationships instead of feeling stuck or bitter. And all in all, I think each scenario where I've practiced with, again, mom, partner, or boss, I grow in that confidence and that fluency. So it comes more naturally each and every time I encounter a new stakeholder, which we all will.
Yeah. Perfect. Dog Apollo's just joined. I don't know if you can see him. Hey, little boy.
He agrees.
Yeah. He's the mascot. All right, Core. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for, I mean, we always hop on LinkedIn Lives together. I haven't done LinkedIn Live in a while, so I'm like, yeah, it's good to be here with you. All right. And I just appreciate you. I've just seen a huge ripple effect in all of your relationships as well. Like the ripple effect that this type of work has on your team, on your partner, on your boss, on your community. And you just told me that in your performance review, you wrote about the program, and I was so happy about to hear that. How you were like, this has really contributed to my growth. I love seeing these changes in you, and thank you so much for doing it. Any last words to anyone before we sign off?
Mm. Just want to say I'm so thankful, not just to Hannah, but I'm so thankful for you, Hannah, creating the space for me to meet the community that I have gotten to learn alongside. Because really, each of those people feels like a deeply close friend that I've known my whole life now, even though we've only been working together for maybe several months or maybe quite a few months if we were in both level 1 and 2 together. And so if you are someone who is, again, like on the fence or considering whether to take it to the next level and continue, just know that it wasn't just taking it to chapter 2 or like doubling the impact of Hannah's principles. It quadrupled the impact and resonance of what I had learned. I think accelerated my kind of like confidence to transform. So glad that I said yes to level 2. And if that helps any of you, I'm here for it. Let's chat about it.
Aw, thanks so much, Core. Okay, no notes. We'll stop there because that was perfect.
That's done. No notes.
All right. Thanks so much, Corey. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.